Hi YouTube friends, this is Fossilsaurus. I'm coming to you with another non-unboxing. This is just something from my collection, but it is incredibly special. One of my favorite pieces. Well, let's just get to it. See how amazing it is? I'm just kidding, it looks so nondescript. This is actually a piece of the monster Dunkleosteus. You may very well know about them. They are quite famous, but not as famous as dinosaurs and mosasaurs and so on. Now, if you saw that documentary, that BBC documentary, Chased by Sea Monsters, this was also a star in it. It was from the Devonian time. Obviously, that means this was a Devonian fish. This was the largest fish, largest predator up to this point, largest predator even on land. But the first, well, there was some super predators for their time before this, but this was the first real super predator. Now, it's from a family, placoderms, which are totally extinct now, which is a shame, but also thank God these guys are not around anymore. If you know what they are, imagine them just evolving for another multiple hundreds of millions of years. These guys were enough at the time. So the Devonian was called the Age of Fishes, the Age of Sharks, but as many multitudes of sharks there were, tons and tons of them, every single one of them was prey for this guy. These were fish that the largest size is generally considered like 10 meters, so it's 33 feet or so. Let's put an asterisk in that for right now because I'm going to come back to that in a little bit. Now, these guys, the skull is the only thing that fossilizes. Placoderms are armored fish, and for the most part, it's just the skull that has armor and just the skull that fossilizes. In smaller ones, there are many smaller ones that the imprint of the body survived also, so we know what they look like, but none of it actually fossilized aside from that little bit, or almost none of them fossilized. There's been an instance where a small amount of vertebrae has been found from these guys, and an instance where partial fin imprint was left. Now, these guys, only the head has ever been fossilized, except for the things I just mentioned. So you might wonder how we know what it looks like, but like I said, smaller things that look almost exactly the same have been fossilized, so we know exactly what those guys look like. And I'm pulling up the asterisk from before right now, so this is the continuation of that. So we know what these look like. Scientifically, yes, that is what they look like. If you have fish from the same family and what you have fossilized from them is almost exactly the same, like 90% and more of like exactly the same, then you can say factually that the body is going to be 90%-ish or more similar. But recently some studies, which I'm going to call stupid, have come out and are trying to say that now this Dunkleosteus is like half the size of what it was before, like 15 feet-ish. Which is ridiculous because, as I said, we basically, as much as you can know without having the actual animal, we know the shape, what they look like, the length, and so on. But also, if you look at the reconstructions, which I will add pictures of, they just look ridiculous. They look like little compact, shrinky-dink versions of what we thought they were. I mean, if you take a picture of it, it's exactly like this, but then it's just, I mean, it just looks so dumb. Until unless we find a specimen that preserves the entire body and it looks like that, you cannot convince me that it looks like that, because that is just absurd. So I'm sorry if that sounds a little biased, and so I mean it's very biased, but that's my view of it, and I feel like that's more than a scientific view, scientific enough view. Now these guys, they didn't have, the armor was not, or the teeth were not teeth. They were made of bone, continuation of the skull. So, I mean, of course they had skin over the skull, but so they just had bone coming out of the skin to make up the jaw area. Now, also, the jaws, top and bottom, closed perfectly against each other, so they were constantly shearing each other, just like scissors. So they, every time they opened and closed their mouth, their jaws, they were sharpening it. So these guys had just absolutely razor sharp tooth plates. Just absolutely amazing. Since a lot of the fish around were armored fish, placoderms, that is why they needed such sharp teeth and such a strong bite force. Depends on where you go. Some places will say that these guys had the strongest bite force of any animal ever. Some places will say Tyrannosaurus did. Some places will say Megalon did. So it's up in the air, but one way or another, these guys had at the very least one of the strongest bite forces of any animal ever, any known animal ever. And part of it is because of a certain muscular connection on the top of their head, which gave them an unbelievably fast bite speed. One of the fastest of, I believe I've also heard it's one of the fastest of movement of a living animal. I believe I've heard that before. That seems a little excessive to me, because there's things like, I mean, even nowadays, there's things like pistol shrimp, which can produce cavitation from how fast they move. So I don't know about that, but apparently it is absurdly fast, and that contributes to the bite force. These guys just outclassed absolutely everything in the water with them. Now, this, I was so lucky to find. I mean, I say that with a lot of fossils, and it's true. I do get very lucky with a lot of them. I'm so far from being rich, so that, like, my ability to afford or to get really awesome fossils is many times based on just dumb, huge luck. This is very cool because, well, it's impossible to tell for sure if you just look at the way it is, thick and then thin. This, I believe, is part of the actual tooth plates, which I'm using the term tooth loosely because, as I said, it's bone, it's not tooth, but I mean tooth plate is, I mean, it's just the term. So also, because of the way it is bent so sharply here, which might not seem sharp, but comparatively, that matches curvature of the head, the jaw. I mean, I'm not going to say like, oh, that part is exactly the same as that. Like, no, but the fact that it has a nice strong bend like that just gives more evidence to that. Mostly though, I don't know how well you can see them, but there are massive amounts of striations on this part. So that looks exactly like what it would be for having another bone just constantly sharpening it. I mean, they're all along here too, so I mean, it could, I mean, I don't know, but it appears to definitely be significant possibility, I think, in it being part of a tooth plate, which, that's just awesome. I mean, having a piece of them is awesome anyway, but having part of the real business area, that's even better. Now this, part of why I was so lucky in being able to get this is because this came from an estate sale, not from a collector. So it didn't come from somebody who was totally aware of what it was and how special it was, but it was still labeled by them. And the first thing I did when I saw this, I mean, that's how they knew what it was. It still had a label and everything. I went on and I did a lot of comparison study to pictures of their actual skulls, and there were many similarities. Striations, a lot of cracks which form along it. These might have been pre-fossilization too, but whatever they are, they're also on pretty much all Dunkleosteus skulls and fragments that you'll find. So that is a similar part. The pores along here and the core is also very similar. So I'm totally confident that that's what this is. And like I said, just absolutely thrilled. Pretty nondescript, doesn't look like anything special, of course. So anybody else checking out, who might be checking out my collection, might not understand why this would have a place of honor, but it definitely will, and at least I will know why. I'm just absolutely thrilled to have such a piece like this. I have been keeping my eyes out before that and after that for anything like this. I've never seen one again, and I would be surprised if I ever come across one that I would be able to get again. I have seen like one or two other pieces for sale ever, but one of them was like half of the entire lower jaw, and that is, I mean, aside from the size, just what it is, I mean, that price was ridiculous. I would never be able to afford anything like that. So as far as I'm concerned, that piece might not even be existing for sale, because it's not anything that would ever be a potential for me. But I will continue to keep my eyes out for these. I'm certain I will never find one again, but I will be watching. So if any of you are collectors, I said this before about something, but I want to say, if you're a collector, scoop this up so quickly, but instead I'm going to say, let me know so I can scoop it up very quickly. So, well, thank you very much. Thank you for letting me share this really special piece. If you're familiar with Dunkleosteus, you'll understand why I'm as excited as I am and why it's so important to me. But if you're not, I'd encourage you to just do a little bit of research on it. Even just look at some pictures of it, and you'll get an idea of what an amazing animal it was. So, if you want to give me some likes, that would be fantastic. If you want to subscribe, that would be fantastic. At the moment, I'm putting out videos very regularly, so you might say, hey, why do I need a subscription? I can just check every day. But it's not going to be like that indefinitely, so at some point, subscription might become a little bit more important to stay on top of my videos. So, but yeah, that would be appreciated, and I hope I see you guys next time.